we're fixing to head out to a foraging class at Washington on the Brazos State Park given by Dr. Mark Merriwether, Vorderbruggen. And hopefully we're going to learn a lot of good stuff about foraging. See you. Alright, we're going to have a wild edible plant class with Mark Merriwether, Vorderbruggen.
500%. Merriwether is just kind of a stage name. It was actually a hiking nickname given to me by some friends. If you remember your history in the Lewis and Clark expedition, Merriwether Lewis, his job was to record the interesting plants that they found on this expedition. I used to have a blog devoted to hiking and camping and kayaking and stuff in Texas, and every so often I'd post edible plants, and that was what people turned out to be interested in. Apparently people don't like to go outside in Texas in the summer unless there's something to eat. So by 2008, people are actually asking me to do classes for them, and it's like, I get paid to go for a walk in the woods? Oh yeah. Briefly, you need to respect the law, you need to respect the land, you need to respect the plant, and you need to respect yourself. And let me go over each one now, a little more detail, starting with respecting the law. Here in the state of Texas, it is illegal to take a plant material from a piece of property without the property owner's permission. State parks, it's illegal to harvest anything. We actually got special permission today. Yay, thank you. Yay. She had to like beg to actually allow me to harvest stuff here. So I'm very thankful for you to do that, because it completely changes the class if you just look at the plant. But yeah, so you need permission. So state parks, city parks, things like that, completely out. Number 2, respect the land. And for here, I'm going to fall back on my Boy Scout training. Leave no trace. It's as simple as that. I teach once a month down in Houston at the Houston Arboretum. It's this 49 acres of beautiful woods in the center of Houston where people go to commune with nature. And apparently part of communing with nature is leaving water bottles and candy bar wrappers and stuff like that. Don't do that. The land. The third one, respect the plant. What that means is you want to harvest sustainably. Respect yourself. And what I mean by there is please don't eat anything poisonous. Now this has 2 sides to it though. The first is you want to make sure you've properly identified any plant that you eat and make sure it's the edible plant and not the toxic mimic. And today you'll be introduced to a bunch of plants. You'll be able to see them from here on out. You'll be good. But the other thing people a lot of times don't think about is don't eat an edible plant from a toxic environment.
Pokemon is that?
It's a recommended book.
Some of us come out here to see real stuff.
Yeah, I've been up to the same.
The way I harvest that, I'll have barbecue tongs and a knife. I'll cut it off, drop it into my bag, take it home. I have a gas range. Hopefully you have a gas range, not an electric, because electric is not going to work. Turn on the fire, and then I start burning the little needles off it. They're called glochids. They're these little, tiny, nasty little needles. After that, I'll take it and I'll just mash it up and strain it through some cheesecloth. All I want from it is the juice, in my case. The juice flavor-wise has a nice raspberry sort of flavor. It's sweet, it's delicious. The pulp left over is going to be filled with tiny little seeds and pulp and unburned needles and so forth. Sometimes I'll take the seeds out of those and toast them and grind them into a flour. Favorites. This is a Yopon holly. Ileox vomitoria, or the holly which makes you throw up. Now, before you wonder just what sort of weird freak is teaching you, it's the berries that make you throw up. Don't do anything with the berries. I don't do anything with the berries. I'm after the leaves. The reason I'm after the leaves is because the leaves are the only naturally occurring source of caffeine that grows in Texas. It has about half the caffeine of tea. And I want to pass some of these around because I want you to look at the leaf and how the leaf, I want you to look at the edges of the leaf and how the leaves are arranged on the stem, on the twig, because it's really important because there is a poisonous mimic that bud looks like, the flower bud, before it turns into that.
Sow thistle.
Okay, and we might see some. We're just entering the season where there might be some. Is this? Okay, if anyone spends any time out in the woods, they've probably encountered this vine. It's thorny, names for it. Some people will call it bullbriar, catbriar, blasphemy vine, because you get tangled up, you start swearing like somebody. A couple different types. This is actually really good eating. Now, to identify it, to make sure it's one of the briars, You want to make sure first the lower section is going to have thorns. The thorns may stop once you get about 6 or 7 feet up, but down in the low part it's going to be covered with thorns. It'll have these leaves at the base of each leaf. There's going to there'll be these 2 tendrils. So just 2 tendrils at the base of each leaf. Can most of you see this? We got 2 here. One's kind of there. We go. So 2 tendrils. Stop that. At the base of each leaf. So thorny, and then 2 tendrils at the base of each leaf. Side note, on Foraging Texas, there's one of the tags that plants have is, does it need to be cooked? Can it be eaten raw? So if you're into raw foods, it's there for that. So you can see which of the wild edibles you can eat raw.
So you need to find tips.
The tips. So has anyone ever harvested asparagus? I see you have some in the I just want you, if you could just walk past and look down. There's a tuber.
So you can eat the tubers also.
Well, okay, let's talk about the tubers. The tubers are about 30% starch and about 70% wood fiber. So you can't use them just like a potato. It's like a cross between a 2x4 and a potato. But that starch is calories, calories is life. And so there was a couple of different ways the Native Americans figured out how to use these tubers. And first off, on a vine like this, the tubers are fairly small. You get out in the woods, you get the big vines. I found tubers the size of my thigh. They're huge. If you look on the Foraging Texas website, there are huge, huge tubers associated, and put them under the campfire and roast them like a potato. What happens when you do that? Starch is just a bunch of sugar molecules linked together. The heat from the fire breaks those bonds, and so it ends up into the individual sugar molecules. So after 3 days, a lot of the starch has been converted into a sugar. So they'll dig it out, chop it up, and then pop it in their mouth and just suck on it, kind of like sucking on sugar cane. It is not as sweet as sugar cane. I'll tell you right now, it's a different directional sugar type thing. I won't go into the chemistry of it, but it's still an energy source. And it has around. This is called pony's foot. And if you look at the leaf, it has this kind of shape like a horse hoof sort of thing. It's kind of round with the cleft in it. This is a bland green, and it's a very, very, very common bland green. You'll find it forming big mats around. I mentioned using a bland green to dilute the taste of the dandelion, the chicory, the sow thistle, things like that. This is called horse herb, and if you're a horse or a rabbit, you'll love it, but humans can get nothing from it. Basically, all it would do, if you're starving to death and you want your stomach to stop complaining, you can eat it, but you will get no nutritional value from it. But it's... Always stick sharp objects in your armpit. Okay, I'm going to pass these around. This tree here, and this tree here, with these warty surfaces, these are called sugar hackberries. The reason they're called sugar hackberries is because I'm passing the berries around. The berries are very, very, very sweet. So there's kind of a slightly hard shell on this berry, followed by a little bit of flesh, followed by a hard seed in the center. Now if you take that and just kind of scrape it off with your mouth, the flesh is very, very sweet. This is actually one of the few sources of sweetness that the pioneers, especially in the early Texas years, had. This is like their dessert berry. Anyone have any property that's covered with the goat weed? Okay, a few, yeah. Okay, it looks and feels and smells like sage. It's poisonous. I'm just handing it to someone. You can pass it around, you can crush it up. The leaves have that fuzzy shape. If you crush the leaves, you get the smell. It looks and smells like sage. It is not. It has a chemical in it that screws up your body's ability to thermoregulate, which the Native Americans harnessed to use as medicine. Now here's the thing. A lot of times with medicine, the difference between medicinal and poisonous is simply dosage. So what they would do is think about fevers for a second. All right, where are the people in charge? I just want to confirm, may I dig this one up?
Yes, you may.
Okay, because it's all over here, but I just wanted, it's a little bit bigger, I'll fill up the hole. Okay, all over a farmer's pastures, you're going to find this right now. This is called curled dock, and it's a really tasty plant. This actually looks like two in here. So curled dock. This is where my tool really comes in. the root has become popular with fancy bartenders because the flavor is bitter. And so they've used it as a replacement for the bitters in mixed drinks. So it's me telling you this, but oh well. The Polish, they make what's called a sorrel or cream of sorrel soup. So this is in the sorrel family. It has this tangy lemon sort of flavor. So she'll take the leaves and she'll cook them down with cream and butter and wine and garlic and mushrooms and spend hours doing this. And the result is really good. It's this creamy, tangy, wonderful soup. I found if you take the leaves and chop them up and throw a can of Campbell's cream and mushroom soup, and a little bit of garlic and a dash of whatever wine you have on hand, it comes really, really close. I'm overwhelmed here. Okay. All right, I'm going to assume I have permission to pull up the dandelion.
Yes, you do.
Okay, first we have a dandelion, and we have a dandelion at the perfect time for eating, but also amongst the dandelion we have chickweed, which is also awesome. And next to it we have clover, and next to that we have Carolina geranium, and next to that we have a bunch of other stuff. So. Oh, wow. Okay. And I'm going to pull this plant. What we're looking at now is another common weed. I'm going to pass this around. This is called spiderwort. Sorry, this one is dayflower. With the 2 blue petals, it's dayflower. With 3, it's spiderwort, but they're used the same way. This is another plant that has that demulcent in it. So think of it as, again, as a wild aloe vera. This, you just mash up the stalk of this, make a poultice of it, and slap it on first-degree burns, skin knees, things like that. You can also use it to add to the smoothies, to thicken up the smoothies, and add the creaminess to that. Or if you're making a stew or a curry or something like that, like Sunday night is usually curry night at our house, so I'll chop the stem up there and throw it in there because I think a nice thick curry.
What was that called?
Dayflower.
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 Okay. Alright, well, unfortunately my battery on my camera went dead halfway through the class, so missed out on some good stuff like ground cherry and bull nettle and milkweed and all kinds of things like that. But I'm going to put some links right down there in the description of where you can find the books that he recommends and a lot of the gear he uses while foraging. So you go check out those links and it'll take you to that. Those will even make good gifts for someone that wants to learn foraging. And also click like and subscribe and share this. Alright, go outside.